Long had my heart thirsted for the adventure of a proper African hunting safari. The open savannas, the incredible wildlife and game, the fantastic feeling of challenge and adventure. Seeing the teeming wildlife springing up from the dark continent was something that had always captured my imagination. It was almost like witnessing this far off, fantastic, exotic, other world, and yet it seemed so welcoming and familiar at the same time. So primal and wild, and yet so pure and divine. Indescribable and yet unmistakable. The flowing rivers, the rolling hills, the stampeding wildebeest herds, the lion's thundering roars echoing through the wilderness, the rising and falling of the sun soaking the horizon. If ever there was a Garden of Eden, this was it. The natural instinct to hunt had been prevalent in my psyche since childhood and really began to rear its head when I reached my early to mid-20s. I had taken up bow hunting white-tailed deer in the fall and occasionally black bear in the spring if I was lucky enough to draw a tag. And on one occasion I made the journey out to Colorado and harvested a massive 7x7 bull elk. I loved the surrounding wildlife and country that encompassed me, but yet I yearned for the far-off reaches and wonders of the African continent. I finally gave in and booked a 16-day trip out to Tanzania, a combination hunt of plains game and Cape Buffalo. I flew in Dar es Salaam and caught another bush plane out to my outfitter. The location was very remote and isolated. The only roads in the area were dirt roads that navigated through the wilderness concession that spanned nearly 50,000 acres and joined into a wildlife preserve on the north and western sides. A lush, rolling savanna filled with life, with patches of trees and forests spanning into a sizable forest to the west and mountains to the north. My plane lands on the dirt landing strip and comes to a halt. A tan Range Rover pulls up as my pilots open the door and begin to unload the supplies for the outfitter. "Johnny?" A thunderous but warm British voice calls out. "Right here," I shout joyously. "Ready to live dangerously?" "Absolutely." I pop out of the plane to find my professional hunter smiling ear to ear. A rugged, muscular man of about 40. He stood 6 foot 2 inches tall with a brown safari hat and a ensemble of tan safari clothes, accompanied by 2 trackers. Rod was a third-generation hunting guide, a man of the wilderness that lived, ate, and breathed the natural world. His operation was considered to be one of the best in Tanzania, if not the whole continent of Africa. Records in lion, kudu, crocodile, eland, sable, Cape buffalo, and top 5 all-time bull elephant. The man had made a name for himself in the outdoor community and was rising up through the ranks. "Get on up." I climbed into the Range Rover while Togo and Jacob helped Rod load the supplies into the back. The engine of the plane starts back up and I watch the aircraft take off into the setting sun. "How's the scouting been going? Any leads?" I asked. "There's been a lot of elephants around. Usually they're a little further north, but they're here. There's one particular bull that's one hell of a specimen." "Yeah? How big?" "Nearly 12 feet tall at the shoulder, and tusks that were in the 8-foot range." "Oh, wow. Not what I'm after, but that's impressive." "Very," said Rod, smiling. "What else have you been seeing lately?" Oh, lots and lots of wildebeest, zebra, impalas, gazelle, a few giraffes here and there, and some massive Cape buffalo bulls. There have been some good-sized kudu bulls, but they're crowded more toward the forests and high, thick bush thickets. They don't call those things the Grey Ghost for nothing. No kidding. Thought I saw an enormous one a few days ago, but he faded right back into the thicket just as soon as I had seen him. Not only do they camouflage well, they're incredibly savvy as well. Well, didn't get that big by being stupid, now did he? Nope, not at all. How are the predators? There's a decent-sized pride of lions that go through the area every so often, with a few solitary individuals here or there. The hyenas keep their distance, and the cheetahs usually snatch a gazelle or impala and go about their way. The leopards are the most difficult to keep up tabs on because they're how stealthy they are. We get the most activity at night right on the game cameras. The area sounds pretty active. Very much so. This is going to be an incredible hunt for you. We arrive at the lodge, not too far away from the airstrip. Two-story manor includes comfortable queen-size beds, chef and kitchen, full-service bar, housekeeping and laundry, a billiard room, library, and game butchering and taxidermy, along with an impressive menagerie of trophies. Taxidermy animals that would impress even the most seasoned safari hunter. Elephant, rhino, hippo, lion, leopard, Cape buffalo, crocodile, kudu, zebra, wildebeest, and even a few fish mounts of some Nile perch. I decided to study in my bow, so I took it outside and shot some test shots just to get everything tuned in and to get a fresh feel. Afterwards, I went back inside, had some dinner, and chopped it up with Rod, Togo, Jacob, and the rest of the guys outside by the campfire. Abram, how's that hippo mount coming for our last client, Dan? Asked Rod. As smooth as my wife's ass, answered Abram in a thick yet sophisticated African accent. The party erupts in mild laughter. Muhammad and I are almost done with it. It should be ready to ship out in the next day or two, added Abram. Excellent, approved Rod. We chatted loosely for a while until Jacob spoke up. I was just speaking to my cousin at the Maasai village earlier this week. Apparently there's been a bit of a concern. A concern about what? Inquired Rod. The Ngovo, answered Jacob gravely. A deafening silence swept over the group. Just the crackling of the fire was audible. If you don't mind me asking, what is that? I asked cautiously. Rod slowly glanced at every single man around the campfire, as if seeking consensus. Everyone nodded their heads, and Rod proceeded to explain it to me. It's a legend around here. There hasn't been a known sighting of one in centuries, definitely before Western colonization. It was a sort of, giant, if you will. Carnivorous, and it was capable of taking down anything. The Maasai believe that it's capable of shifting between worlds, a sort of evil spirit that comes in and out of our realm from time to time. The Ngovo is a supreme terror that reigns on the earth. Nothing can match it, Rod exclaimed. An uncomfortable silence sweeps over our group. You can nearly cut the tension in the air with a knife. Then, giggling, first Jacob, then Abram, Togo, Mohammed, then finally Rod. You guys are such... I cut myself off short, laughing. All in good fun, said Rod. Just an old wives' tale, said Mohammed. An old folk legend. No one has actually seen this thing, he continued. Yeah, it would be quite noticeable if something that was capable of killing an elephant, a rhino, or a hippo was walking around, added Togo. Do you jokers pull this gag on every hunter that comes into camp? I asked, still giggling. Without exception, smiled Rod. We joked and conversed a while longer, listening to old safari tales and more folk legends. We called it a night after a bit and tune turned in. I woke up early, had breakfast, loaded up the truck with the guys, and we headed out right before the sun was coming up. A cool, crisp, mild morning. Not a single cloud in the sky. What's on the agenda for today? I asked. The wildebeest herd is up and on the move early in the morning. If we're able to spot them and have the wind in our favor, we'll make a stalk. And we'll be on the watch for a good kudu bull if that falls through. Sounds like a plan. Our Range Rover itches slowly through the sun-glazed savannah, occasionally stopping for a quick glass at the area. After about 20 to 30 minutes into our expedition, Togo and Rod spotted the wildebeest herd, nearly 500 yards away from our Land Rover. The wind was at our face, so we pulled up the truck slightly further and discreetly got out. There was an electable amount of trees, tall grass, and brush that could act as some cover as we made our stalk. Easily, steadily, we moved through the brush, slowly and quietly, enough not to get noticed by the herd, just fast enough to make good time on our stalk and not to get ditched by the herd. It was a decent-sized herd, about 300 individuals or so, grazing. Ever so easily, all four of us moved closer and closer. After nearly an hour of stalking, we inched to about 50 yards from the herd. Another 20 yards and I'll be well within striking range. The only problem is there's a sizable gap between the thicket that we're currently behind and the brush that I'm trying to get to. It would be difficult to get to the spot without getting busted by the herd unless I crawled. We checked the wind, zeroed in on one specific large bull, and I got down on all fours and got to business. Inch by inch, I slithered through the grass, even closer to the herd. A snap of a twig, I freeze. Several wildebeest heads raise at the sound of the sudden noise. About 30 seconds pass and everything settles back down. I inch closer and closer. And finally I make it behind the bush. I zero in on the large bull that I have my eye on. I slowly retrieve my rangefinder and focus on the beast. 30 yards exactly. I lower the rangefinder and raise my bow. I knock an arrow and attach the release and draw back. I place the sight pin right on the shoulder. I wait for the bull to clear an area of cows so there's nothing behind him once I shoot. I hold. Just a little bit more. I release the arrow. The projectile pierces the shoulder of the beast and passes through the vitals. A perfect shot. The bull bucks, wobbles for a split second, and runs off. Herd is alerted and begins to move off. I fist pump in triumph adrenaline pumping. I look back to the approving grins of Rod, Jake, and Togo. Excellent, smiles Rod. We wait 20 minutes to let the animal expire properly, and we begin to make the recovery. We follow a good blood trail and find a good blood trail and follow it for 30 yards from where my arrow hit. There is my bull. We all give each other high fives, and I have a moment of gratitude and thanksgiving for my accomplishment. For the experience, the bull, the journey, everything. After taking several photos, we load the wildebeest into the truck. On the way back to the lodge to have the wildebeest field dressed and processed for taxidermy, Rod and I discuss how sport hunting contributes to conservation, not just in Tanzania, but across the continent. Hunting concessions and reserves account for hundreds of millions of acres of wilderness preservation across the African continent. Tax revenues go to anti-poaching efforts and biological research. We arrive to the lodge. Abram and Muhammad begin to process the wildebeest, and we have lunch. We will be having the wildebeest for dinner, and the other half of the meat will be given to the local Maasai tribesmen. After relaxing for a few hours after lunch, we begin an afternoon hunt for kudu. We hop into the truck once more. On the way to our area, we see several giraffes run across the dirt road behind our rover. A few minutes later, we witness a stampede of elephants cross the road, going off into the same direction. I have never seen a herd of elephants move that quickly before, remarked Rod. Odd, added Jake. We're going to have to be extra careful on this stock. Looks like there might be a pride of lions in the area, said Togo. It would be a good guess, though. Elephants usually don't get intimidated by lions like that, especially a herd of that size and with no calves or youngsters, added Rod. A subtle yet very strong sense of uncertainty and discomfort could be felt between the four of us. It was almost as though we all knew that something unusual was afoot, but no one wanted to acknowledge it. Still, we pressed on. We pulled to the side and glossed for several minutes. We stare into thick hedgerows of leafless trees and brush. Then, I see a smooth gray-brown surface with white vertical stripes. A majestic peak of spiral-shaped horns jut out above the canopy of brush. I silently point to the spot and whisper, "There it is." "Good eye," whispered Rod. We silently hop off the Land Rover and begin our stalk, much slower and much more cautious this time around. The wrong step on a twig or brushing against a tree limb could ruin everything, or a shift of the wind could blow our scent right up to the bull. Like ghosts, we slowly drift through the brush, dead silent. I get close, the bull completely oblivious to my presence. I duck, crawling underneath an overhanging branch of leafless limbs. I crawl to a spot with a shooting lane. I raise my rangefinder. 15 yards. I shake, exhale, and knock my arrow, and draw back. I aim for the shoulder, and release. A clean, precise pass through right through the vitals. The bull leaps into the air, crashing through the rows of thorn brush and bushes. I pump again. The rest of my party is ecstatic. "You're one hell of an archer," smiled Rod. "Thank you so much for having me here." I've been captivated by these animals for so long, I said. We followed the blood trail into a nearby forest. We found the bull. I gave thanks once again, and we took the pictures and we began to load the beast onto the truck. We noticed a large flock of vultures circling just a short distance away. The sight piqued our interest, so we went back to the lodge and dropped off my prized kudu at the lodge to be processed and returned back to the spot. The vultures were even more numerous when we got back. "I've never seen so many," exclaimed Rod. We hiked the extra 300 yards to the site. Foul stench filled the air the closer we got, stronger and stronger. We entered a clearing, scattering dozens of vultures, the hum of flies filling the air. It was a dead elephant, the enormous bull that Rod had told me about, every bit of 12 feet at the shoulder and sporting an 8-foot tusk. However, the behemoth has seen better days. The bull's skull had been collapsed in, almost completely crushed, along with having its throat punctured with deep open bite wounds. The front right leg had been ripped off from the socket and all of the others had been broken. The majority of the meat had been consumed off of the body, the animal's massive rib bones sticking out into the sky. "Dear God," Rod whispered, breaking the silence. "Have any of you ever seen anything even remotely close to this before?" I whispered. Jake and Togo shook their heads. Rod just sat there with his rifle strapped over his shoulder, shaking his head. "What the hell can even do this to an elephant?" I said, slightly alarmed. "Don't know," muttered Jacob. There's a clear path of downed trees and ripped earth going through the forest away from the carcass. "Ngovo," Togo muttered. "Togo, come on." "Ngovo!" he shouted, almost hysterically. Jacob shook his head. Rod took out his camera and started to take some pictures of the carcass. "This isn't normal. I'm sending these to the Game and Resources Department, and I'm going to contact them as soon as we get back to the lodge. It sure as hell isn't poachers, and it sure as shit isn't a pride of lions." "We're not safe here," whispered Jacob. "I know," Rod answered. Just then, I got the sudden feeling that we needed to leave the site immediately. I began to feel the pressure of a predator's gaze more and more. My stomach began to tighten. My heart started to beat a little quicker. I started to shake. All four of us looked up into the trees of the nearby forest simultaneously. About 40 feet up are a pair of eyes. Large, hazel brown eyes, nearly the size of bowling balls, staring directly at us. It's looking straight into me, right directly into me and the other man. The eyes narrow, going between all four of us, navigating, calculating, estimating, sizing us up. All four of us could only stand there in fear, frozen, not knowing what to do. After what seemed like an eternity, a deep, guttural vibration. No, a growl starts to shake the clearing. Low, deep, constant. The volume intensifies, going for a deep, low rumble to an even louder, ear-piercing scream. All four of us cover our ears and lurch back in pain. The noise lasts for several seconds, but it was piercing enough to bring all four of us down to our knees, wincing in pain. The noise relented. All four of us still shaking, the noise still ringing in our ears. A collection of long, black fingers, each being several feet long, removes this section of tree branches and limbs covering the face. A monstrosity that hell itself couldn't even concoct was present before us, right before our very eyes. The face of a humanoid, human gorilla-like thing had appeared right before our eyes. Dark black, glistening skin with large eyes, a pronounced sagittal crest, and a flat primate nose and slightly protruding mouth. The beast seemed to possess a human-like sense of intelligence and consciousness. The monster then shot us a mischievous smile. A fortress of upper and lower incisors, complemented with frontal teeth and side teeth that weren't shaped like a normal primate's teeth, but more in a triangular shape similar to a shark, highly suggesting a carnivorous diet. John, Togo, Jacob, start backing away very, very slowly, Rod commanded. All four of us began to back away, slowly, very slowly. Here it was, nearly dark. We had some unknown, 40-foot-tall monster staring down at us. There was no way we could fight this thing. John only had a 375 Holland & Holland, and Jacob and Togo only had Remington 338s. My compound bow sure as hell wasn't going to do a damn thing to this beast, so that was out of the question. Even so, I felt like the firearms could act as a deterrent toward the eye area should the beast ever decide to charge at us. Rod was shaking almost uncontrollably. Try not to look at it in the eyes, Rod commanded. Ingovo, Jacob whispered. Togo shivered, praying underneath his breath. Then, the beast began to step out of the trees and into the clearing. We started backing up with an even greater sense of urgency. All three of the guys bring up their rifles. The great ape pulls off one of the rear legs of the elephant with hellish ease, and with a demented smile, begins to move into our direction. Saliva begins to run down its mouth. It's drooling, salivating at the mere thought of devouring us. Concentrate your fire on the eyes. If it charges, it's our only chance, Rod whispered. The hazel-brown eyes narrowed, the mouth widened, and with a great show of force, the giant ape tossed the elephant leg at us. The velocity and force was unreal. I ducked and rolled just in the nick of time, but Rod wasn't as lucky. Pinned against the leg, with blood coming out of his mouth. Rod laid there, motionless. Jacob and Togo opened fire. The abomination let out another blood-curdling scream, damn near paralyzing all three of us. Jacob, Togo, and I actually fell onto our backs, flat on the ground, covering our ears. Then a low rumble. The beast removed the elephant leg and took Rod into its hand. Rod, now somewhat conscious, wiggled and hobbled in protest, but to no avail. I tried to make a move for the 375, while the beast was distracted, but was so paralyzed by fear that I couldn't even move. I think that Jacob and Togo had the same idea but had the same problem. Once again, I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't move. I was paralyzed, glued to the ground. One last ditch scream by Rod, and then a horrific series of crunches, rips, and splurts as the Ngovo devoured him savagely in a span of seconds. With the taste of flesh and blood in his mouth, the beast hungered for more. With all three of us still pinned to the ground, the great ape made its way to us, the low rumble still emerging from the monstrosity. The beast sized all three of us up. Then, lowering its enormous hand, it stood over us, smiling wickedly. Then, the beast swept up Jacob into his gargantuan mitts. The poor soul began to scream and pray in his native Maasai tongue to ward off the marauding abomination. The beast let out a short, sharp scream, roaring in disgust. The ape crushed Jacob right there in his hand. One last scream of agony before the series of cracks and pops, blood splattering out from the monster's grip. The Ngovo then opened its palm back and proceeded to consume the compressed remains of Jacob. I felt sick to my stomach, nearly ready to barf. The beast then began to turn around slightly away from us. It was at that moment that I was suddenly able to move, as was Togo. Quickly but silently, we made our way out of the vicinity. Togo, please tell me you have a spare key to the Range Rover. No. But the truck has a GPS that's connected to another GPS at the lodge. They'll know exactly where the truck is, but they'll have no idea of what we're dealing with, as there's no two-way radio or walkie-talkies in the truck. Rod had a satellite phone on him, but... Yeah, I whispered. Just wish there was a way that we could get into contact with Abram and Muhammad. We have rifles that would be more suitable for this, and they would be prepared better in case if it pops up while they were picking us up, whispered Togo. How far are we from the lodge? About 6 miles. Shit! Yeah, Togo nodded gravely. So, a deafening roar thunders not too far behind us. The beast realizes our escape attempt. It's dark now, Togo and I wandering in the pitch black. We weren't planning on staying out this late, so we didn't bring flashlights or headlamps with us. How long do you think it will be until they come looking for us? I asked. There's no telling. Probably not too much longer. Abram and Muhammad both have strong instincts when it comes to things like this. Hopefully they'll bring elephant guns or the Nitro Express rifles. We're gonna need them. A deep grunt. Exhale huffs through the trees about 50 yards from us. We both remain quiet, not moving. Thunder begins to boom in the distance. A brief flash of lightning. Great, I think to myself. Another lightning strike. Another roll of thunder. Then some rustling in the trees about 100 yards away. Maybe it's starting to move the other way, I think to myself. Though I have to admit that it's remarkable that such a large creature can move so nimbly and quietly. There was no sound. Absolutely no sound except for the thunder in the distance and the subtle rustling we would periodically hear. More lightning. The wind begins to pick up. Jesus, wind shift. Togo and I had positioned ourselves strategically in a manner in which the wind was blowing towards us and away from the spot in where we thought that the ape was. Now, it was blowing our scent straight towards it. Should we make a run for it? I whisper. As Togo was about to answer, we hear the low rumble growl once again. We shoot each other a quick glance, and we make a run for it through the dark. Another lightning flash, and a roll of thunder, mixed with the growl of the savage beast. We know the relative direction of the road and head in that direction. One behind the other. Then we begin to hear footsteps. Keep moving, whispered Togo. We trudge through the thickets and the brush, the footsteps getting closer. The earth shakes beneath us, shakes beneath our feet. Togo and I nearly sprinting through the darkness of the night. The hot breath of the beast starts to beat down our necks. A foul stench of rotting meat fills the air around us. An even greater sense of urgency grows. We keep moving for another minute after the footsteps end. Keep moving, let's get some distance, gasped Togo. Rain starts to sprinkle, then full-on rain begins to fall. Another flash of lightning. We keep moving for another few minutes. Then we stop. I think we lost it, I whisper. Maybe, sighed Togo. The silence is broken by a low rumble. How in the... A bone crack and a sudden shriek of pain. Togo was taken. I sprint off and hide behind a tree. Help! Togo calls out. Fuck! Help! Fuck. I didn't want to alert the beast of my position, and yet I wanted to save my friend. John, help! God. Another low rumble. The Ngova was using Togo as bait. I searched for his 338. Found it. Help! I hear another low rumble and guesstimate the height and location of the beast's head. I open fire, emptying the weapon. The beast screams, and then another series of screams, and bones crunching. Shit. I take off running as fast as possible, running for my life. A loud scream pierces the darkness. I run through the night, footsteps pounding just behind me. Another rumble just behind me, the smell of rotting meat becoming even more pervasive. Beast huffs like a freight train, picking up its pace. I make the mistake of looking back, slightly, and I catch a glimpse of a flash of red eyes charging through the trees. I then start to hear the echo of a truck going through the savannah less than 100 yards away. I see the glow of headlights and even brighter spotlights on the top of the oncoming truck. The footsteps pause and I keep trucking desperately towards the road. The truck was parked next to our empty Range Rover on the side of the road. I race out into the road, waving my hands in the air. What the hell is going on? Shouted Abram. Togo and Rod are dead. There's no time to explain. We need to get the hell out of here. Did you bring rifles? Yes. I brought the elephant gun and the Nitro Express. Good, we're going to need them, I said, hopping into the Range Rover as we drove off. What happened? Asked Muhammad. Ngovo, I whispered. What? Ngovo, I repeated. Abram drove silently, and Muhammad just stared at me. Something crashes from out of the trees just behind our vehicle. The beast is now less than 40 feet behind our truck, gaining 140 feet. Muhammad grabs the 500 Nitro Express. I grab the other double barrel elephant gun. We pop up out of the sunroof. Belts of ammunition hanging. The beast switches from a bipedal stance to a quadrupedal one, running on its knuckles, gaining ground. The red eyes and blood-stained teeth rage for more carnage. Muhammad and I open fire at the head, aiming at the eyes. The beast lurches, pounding a fist to the ground. It leaps into the air, landing feet behind the rover. I manage to get another round into the monster before it grabs Muhammad, crushing him into bits right next to me. Blood sprays all over me, while bone crunching erupts in my ears. I loaded another 2 rounds, aim, and fire. Blood squirts. The beast falls to the ground. I reload and fire again, hitting the beast in the other eye, and another in the center of the head. The Range Rover stops. Abram and I get out of the truck, both of us sporting elephant rifles. We go over and examine the body of the fallen monster. The beast attempts to rise for one more violent hurrah. Abram ends it with one last blast to the skull. "This'll make one hell of a mount, won't it?" he says, with an exhausted grin.